Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, staring at the strange signal on his screen. The ship had been exploring the outer edges of human space for 3 months, mapping new star systems and looking for planets that humans could call home. Jake had seen many things in his 15 years as a space captain, but nothing like this. The signal was not random noise from a distant star. It was organized, planned, and clearly made by someone with intelligence. The patterns, repeated every few minutes, and the computer had already figured out it was some kind of language. Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was first contact with an alien species. "Captain," said Lisa Martinez, his communications officer. "The signal is getting stronger. Whatever is sending it is coming this way." Jake nodded and pressed the button to speak to his crew. "All hands, this is the captain. We have detected what appears to be an alien transmission. This is not a drill. Report to your stations and prepare for possible contact." The bridge became busy as crew members checked their equipment. Jake had trained for this moment his entire career, but now that it was happening, he felt unprepared. The human race had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Today, they would get their answer. "Captain," called out Danny Rogers from the science station, "I'm picking up something on long-range sensors. It's big, sir. Much bigger than our ship." Jake walked over to look at Danny's screen. A massive object was moving toward them through space. It was not like any human ship he had ever seen. The shape was strange and beautiful, like a giant crystal floating through the darkness. It was at least 10 times the size of the horizon. "How long until it reaches us?" Jake asked. "About 2 hours at its current speed," Danny replied. Jake knew he had to make a decision quickly. He could order his ship to run away, but that might make the aliens think humans were unfriendly. He could stay and fight, but his small exploration ship would be destroyed easily. Or he could stay and try to talk to them. "Send a message to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have made contact with an unknown alien species. Request immediate assistance and guidance." "Yes, sir," Lisa said, her fingers moving quickly over her controls. Jake knew it would take hours for the message to reach Earth, and hours more for any help to arrive. By then, whatever was going to happen would already be over. He was on his own. The alien ship continued to approach. As it got closer, the crew could see more details on their screens. The ship seemed to be made of some kind of blue crystal that glowed with its own light. There were no visible windows or doors, just smooth surfaces that reflected the light of nearby stars. "Captain," Lisa said, "the alien transmission has changed. It's now being directed specifically at us." "Can you understand any of it?" Jake asked. "The computer is working on it, but it's unlike any language we know. The patterns are very complex." Jake felt sweat on his forehead. He had to make contact with these aliens, but how could he communicate with beings who might think in completely different ways than humans? An hour passed. The alien ship was now close enough that the crew could see it through the windows of the bridge. It was even more beautiful up close, like a floating palace made of light. But Jake could also see that it had weapons. Strange, devices that looked like they could tear his ship apart without effort. "Captain," Danny called out, "I'm detecting more ships approaching from different directions. 3 of them, all the same size as the first one." Jake's blood turned cold. 4 alien ships, each one powerful enough to destroy his vessel. If they wanted to attack, the Horizon would not survive. But why would they bring so many ships just to destroy one small human vessel? Maybe they had a different purpose. "The transmission has changed again," Lisa announced. "The computer thinks it might be some kind of greeting or challenge. The aliens seem to be trying to establish contact." "Send them our standard first contact message," Jake ordered. "Mathematical sequences, pictures of our solar system, and basic information about humanity. Sending now, Captain." Jake watched the alien ships position themselves around the horizon. They were not attacking, but they were clearly in control of the situation. The human ship was surrounded with no way to escape. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then Lisa's station lit up with activity. "Captain, we're receiving a response. The computer has made some progress with their language. The message seems to say something like, Small ship identify purpose territory violation discuss. Jake understood. Immediately. The aliens thought the humans were trespassing in their space. This was not a friendly first contact between equals. This was a confrontation between a powerful alien empire and a small human exploration ship that had wandered into the wrong place. Try to send them a message explaining that we are explorers from Earth, Jake said. Tell them we come in peace and did not know this was their territory. As Lisa worked to translate and send the message, Jake looked out at the alien ship surrounding them. He realized that this moment would change everything for humanity. Whether humans would be welcomed into the galaxy or destroyed as trespassers depended on what happened in the next few hours. The future of the human race rested in the hands of one captain and his crew, alone in the darkness of space facing beings beyond their understanding. 3 days had passed since the first contact. Captain Jake Morrison now stood in a place he never thought he would see. The alien station hung in space between the human and alien fleets, like a giant flower made of metal and light. The aliens had built it in just 2 days, showing technology that made human engineering look like children playing with blocks. Ambassador Lisa Carter had arrived on the fastest ship Earth could send. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, who had spent 20 years solving problems between different human nations. Now she faced the biggest challenge of her career, talking to beings that were not human at all. Remember, Lisa said to her team as they prepared to board the alien station, we know almost nothing about these creatures. Every move we make could start a war or create peace. Dr. Amy Watson checked her equipment one more time. She was a scientist who studied how different species might communicate. Her job was to help Lisa understand the aliens and avoid dangerous mistakes. Next to her stood Ryan Bell, a young man who was an expert in languages and translation. The alien shuttle that came to pick them up was unlike anything humans had ever built. It moved without any visible engines and made no sound. When the human team stepped inside, they felt like they were walking into a living creature rather than a machine. The inside of the shuttle was warm and filled with a soft blue light. The walls seemed to pulse gently like a heartbeat. There were no seats or controls that humans could recognize. The shuttle simply knew where to go and took them there smoothly. This technology is incredible, Amy whispered to Lisa. Their materials. Science is hundreds of years ahead of ours. When they arrived at the station, the human team got their first close look at the aliens. The Vexathari were tall and thin, with skin that looked like blue crystal. They wore complex suits that covered their entire bodies and crackled with small sparks of electricity. Their faces were hidden behind masks, and they moved in perfect coordination like dancers. The leader of the alien group was introduced as High Commander Zeth Kalar. He was taller than the others, and his suit glowed brighter. When he spoke, his voice came through a translator device, but it sounded cold and mechanical. Humans, Zeth Kalar said, you have entered Vexathari space without permission. Your species is unknown to us. Explain your presence here. Lisa stepped forward carefully. She had been warned not to make any sudden movements. High Commander, I am Ambassador Lisa Carter, representing Earth and humanity. We are explorers seeking new worlds and new friends among the stars. We did not know this was your territory. Ignorance is not an excuse, Zeth Kalar replied. The galaxy has rules. Species that break these rules face consequences. Amy noticed something strange about how the aliens moved. They never came close to each other, always keeping several feet of distance. When one alien needed to pass another, they would stop and wait. It was like they were afraid to touch. Ryan was having problems with translation. The alien language was not just words, but also included electrical signals that his equipment could barely detect. Many important meanings were getting lost. High Commander, Lisa said, we wish to learn your rules and follow them. Perhaps we can find a way for our species to coexist peacefully. Coexistence requires understanding, Zeth Kalar said. Your species appears chaotic and unpredictable. You make unnecessary movements and sounds. Your emotional displays are disturbing. Lisa realized that the aliens found normal human behavior frightening. When Ryan had gestured with his hands while talking, several aliens had stepped backward. When Amy had smiled, They had moved even further away. "We mean no harm by our actions," Lisa explained. "These are natural behaviors for humans. Perhaps you could teach us what behaviors you prefer." The meeting continued for hours. Lisa learned that the Vexthari Empire controlled hundreds of star systems and dozens of other alien species. They had rules for everything and expected all species to follow them exactly. Species that could not adapt were either forced to leave or were conquered. The aliens seemed especially disturbed by human tendencies to touch objects, gesture while speaking, and show emotions on their faces. To the Vexthari, these behaviors suggested violence and instability. "Your species has potential," Sethkalar finally said. "But you must prove you can be civilized. You will be given a test." "What kind of test?" Lisa asked. "3 of your colony worlds are in disputed territory. You will abandon them and move your people elsewhere. This will show that humans can follow galactic law." Lisa felt her heart sink. Those 3 colonies were home to over 50,000 people. Some families had lived there for generations. Abandoning them would be like tearing out a piece of humanity's soul. "High Commander, those worlds are our homes. Our people have lives there. Surely there is another way to prove our good intentions." "There is no other way," Sethkalar said firmly. "Species that cannot make sacrifices for galactic order are not ready to join civilized space." Amy watched the alien leader as he spoke. She noticed that his electrical field grew stronger when he was making important points. The other aliens responded to these changes by adjusting their own positions. They were communicating through electricity, in ways that humans could not fully understand. The meeting ended with an ultimatum. Humans had 30 days to evacuate the 3 colony worlds or face military action. The Vexthari made it clear that their ships could destroy human colonies easily. As the human team returned to their ship, Lisa felt the weight of an impossible choice. Abandoning the colonies would save lives, but would also show that humanity was weak. Refusing might mean war against an enemy they could not defeat. "What do we do now?" Ryan asked. Lisa looked out at the alien ships surrounding them. "We find a third option," she said. "There has to be a way to show them that humans deserve respect without giving up everything we hold dear." But as the alien station disappeared behind them, Lisa wondered if such an option really existed. The Vexithari seemed to understand only strength and submission. They had never met a species that tried to find middle ground. The future of humanity now depended on finding a way to change the mind of beings who had never learned to compromise. 25 days had passed since the aliens gave their ultimatum. Ambassador Lisa Carter sat in her quarters aboard the USS Horizon, reading reports from the 3 colony worlds that were supposed to be evacuated. The colonists were refusing to leave. They had built homes, farms, and entire communities on those planets. To them, abandoning everything felt like surrender. Captain Jake Morrison entered her room carrying a cup of coffee and looking tired. He had not slept well since the negotiations began. "Any word from Earth Command?" Jake asked. "They want us to find a peaceful solution, but they won't order the colonists to leave," Lisa replied. "The president says those people have a right to stay in their homes. And if we don't evacuate them, the Vexithari will attack in 5 days." Jake sat down heavily in a chair. The alien fleet had grown larger each day. Now there were 12 of their crystal ships waiting at the edge of human space, each one capable of destroying entire cities. The human fleet had only 6 ships in the area, and they were much smaller and weaker. Dr. Amy Watson knocked on the door and entered. She had been studying the aliens constantly, trying to understand how they thought and acted. Her research might be the key to avoiding a war. "I think I've figured out something important," Amy said, spreading her notes on the table. "The Vexithari aren't just afraid of physical contact with other species. They're afraid of physical contact with each other." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "Watch recordings of them carefully. They never touch anything directly. Their suits do all the touching for them. Even when they hand objects to each other, the suits make the contact, not their actual hands." Jake looked at the videos Amy had collected. She was right. The aliens moved like everything around them was dangerous. They kept distance from walls, furniture, and especially from other living beings. Why would they be so afraid? Jake asked. I think their home planet must be extremely dangerous, Amy said. Maybe the air is poisonous, or maybe they evolved in a place where touching the wrong thing could kill them. Their entire culture is built around avoiding physical contact. That would explain why they find human behavior so disturbing, Lisa said. We touch everything. We shake hands, pat shoulders, hug our friends. To them, we must look completely insane. Ryan Bell had been listening from the doorway. If touching things is so dangerous to them, how did they ever develop technology? How did they build ships and cities? They're biosuits, Amy said. Those aren't just protective clothing. They're like external bodies that let the aliens interact with the world safely. The suits touch things so the aliens inside don't have to. This information was interesting, but Lisa didn't see how it could help solve their current problem. The Vexathari still wanted the colony worlds evacuated, and they had the power to take them by force. The next day brought bad news. A human supply ship had been traveling to one of the disputed colonies when it encountered a Vexathari patrol. The alien ships had ordered the human vessel to turn back, but there had been a misunderstanding about the translation. Lieutenant Steve Parker, the supply ship's security officer, had tried to show the aliens that his ship was unarmed. He had opened the cargo bay doors and used hand signals to indicate that they carried only food and medical supplies. But the aliens had interpreted his gestures as threatening behavior. The Vexathari ships had surrounded the human vessel and demanded that Steve be handed over for punishment. They claimed that his aggressive movements had violated their agreements about proper behavior. The human captain had refused, and now both sides were facing off in space with weapons ready. This is exactly what we were trying to avoid, Lisa said when she heard the news. One misunderstanding could start a war. High Commander Zeth Kalar contacted the Horizon directly. His translated voice sounded angrier than before. Humans continue to show violent tendencies, he said. Your military officer made threatening gestures toward our ships. This proves that your species cannot be trusted. High Commander, Lieutenant Parker was trying to show that his ship was peaceful, Lisa explained. He meant no threat. Intent does not matter. Actions matter. Your species is too dangerous to be allowed free movement in this sector. Please, there must be some way to resolve this peacefully. There is only one resolution. You have 72 hours to remove all humans from the disputed worlds. After that, we will remove them ourselves. The communication ended, leaving Lisa staring at a blank screen. The original 30-day deadline had been shortened to 3 days because of the incident with Steve Parker. Jake called an emergency meeting with all department heads. The situation was getting worse by the hour. Earth. Command was sending more ships, but they would not arrive in time to help. The colonists on the disputed worlds were preparing to defend themselves, but their weapons were no match for alien technology. We have 3 options, Jake said. We can evacuate the colonies and accept defeat. We can fight and probably lose, or we can try to find some other solution. What other solution? Asked the chief engineer, Tony Clark. The aliens have made their position clear. They want us gone. Amy had been quiet during the meeting, but now she spoke up. What if we're approaching this wrong? What if the Vexathari aren't trying to be cruel? What if they're trying to protect us? Protect us from what? Lisa asked. From themselves. Think about it. They're terrified of physical contact. They see humans as beings who touch everything without fear. Maybe they think we're going to get ourselves killed by touching something dangerous in their territory. That's a big assumption, Jake said. But it makes sense, Amy continued. What if those disputed worlds have some kind of hazard that the Vexathari know about but we don't? What if they're trying to keep us away from something that could hurt us? Tony Clark had been working on understanding Vexathari technology since the first contact. He had made some progress in analyzing their ship designs and energy patterns. Amy might be right, Tony said. I've been studying their biosuits, and they're not just protection from their environment. They're protection from radiation, toxic, gases, biological hazards, and things we don't even have names for. Are you saying the colony worlds are dangerous? Lisa asked. I'm saying the Vexathari might think they are. If their entire species evolved to avoid physical contact with their environment, They might see any world where humans live and work as incredibly dangerous. This new perspective changed everything. Maybe the aliens weren't being aggressive. Maybe they were trying to save human lives in the only way they knew how. But there were still 72 hours left to find a way to prove that humans could survive in this part of the galaxy. Lisa looked out at the Vexthari ships waiting in space. Somewhere inside those crystal vessels were beings who might be trying to help humanity, even though their methods seemed hostile. The question was whether she could find a way to bridge the gap between two species that saw the universe in completely different ways. Time was running out, and the fate of 3 worlds hung in the balance. 12 hours remained before the deadline. Ambassador Lisa Carter stood alone in the observation deck of the USS Horizon, watching the Vexthari fleet in the distance. Their crystal ships glowed softly against the darkness of space, beautiful and threatening at the same time. Behind her, the door opened. Dr. Amy Watson entered, carrying a data pad with her latest research. "Lisa, I need to show you something," Amy said. "I've been analyzing the air samples from the alien station. The atmosphere they breathe would kill a human in minutes." Lisa turned around. "What do you mean?" "Their air is full of chemicals that are poisonous to us. But more than that, everything they touch has traces of these same chemicals. They literally cannot survive without their protective suits." "So they really are trying to protect us?" "I think so. But there's something else." Amy showed her the data pad. "I found records of other species the Vexthari have encountered, 3 different alien races. All of them were forced to leave Vexthari space. What happened to them?" "That's the strange part. The Vexthari helped them find new worlds to live on. Safe worlds. They even provided technology and resources to help them settle." Lisa stared at the information. "They're not conquerors. They're protectors. But they're protecting everyone by keeping them away. They've never learned that some species might be able to handle the dangers they're afraid of." Captain Jake Morrison's voice came over the communication system. "Ambassador Carter, please report to the bridge immediately. We have a situation." Lisa and Amy hurried to the bridge. When they arrived, they found Jake talking to someone on the main screen. It was the governor of New Haven, one of the 3 disputed colony worlds. "Governor Martinez, please repeat what you just told me," Jake said. Governor Martinez was a middle-aged woman who looked very worried. "Captain, we've discovered something strange. Our mining operations found unusual crystals deep underground. When we tried to analyze them, several of our scientists got sick." "What kind of sickness?" Amy asked, stepping forward. "Fever, difficulty breathing, skin rashes. Dr. Peterson thinks it might be some kind of radiation poisoning, but our equipment can't identify the source." Amy and Lisa looked at each other. This was exactly what the Vexthari might have been worried about. "Governor, I need you to stop all mining operations immediately," Lisa said, "and move your people away from those crystal deposits." "Why? What's going on?" "We think the Vexthari know about those crystals. They might be dangerous in ways we don't understand." After the communication ended, Lisa made a decision that surprised everyone on the bridge. "I'm going to contact Commander Zethkalar," she said. "I'm going to ask him to meet with me one more time." "Lisa, they've made their position clear," Jake said. "They want us gone in 12 hours. Then I have 12 hours to change their minds." An hour later, Lisa found herself back on the alien station. This time she came alone against the advice of her security team. She had removed most of her protective equipment, wearing only a basic breathing mask and light clothing. "Hi, Commander." Zethkalar appeared surprised to see her. His biosuit crackled with more electrical activity than usual, which Amy had taught her meant he was agitated. "Ambassador Carter, the deadline approaches. Why have you come here?" "Hi, Commander. I believe there has been a great misunderstanding between our species. We found dangerous crystals on one of our colony worlds. Our people became sick when they touched them." Zethkalar's electrical field grew brighter. "You found the Corathana deposits. Is that what they're called? Are they dangerous?" "Extremely dangerous. The crystals release radiation that destroys living tissue slowly. Many species have been poisoned by them without knowing. Why didn't you tell us about this danger? We tried to protect you by removing you from the area. It is the way we have always dealt with such problems. Lisa took a step closer to the alien leader. Several of his guards moved backward, their suits crackling with defensive energy. High Commander, humans are different from other species you have met. We can learn to avoid dangers if we know about them. We can adapt and find ways to be safe. Your species touches everything without fear. You cannot be trusted to avoid danger. What if I could prove that humans can show proper caution? What if I could demonstrate that we understand the seriousness of these hazards? How would you prove such a thing? Lisa made a decision that terrified and amazed her at the same time. She began removing her breathing mask and protective clothing. Ambassador Carter, what are you doing? Zethkalar's translated voice carried a tone of alarm. I'm showing you that humans can choose to be vulnerable when the situation requires it, Lisa said, dropping her breathing mask to the floor. If you wanted to harm me, I would be defenseless right now. The alien guards raised their weapon systems, but Zethkalar ordered them to stop. He stared at the human woman who stood before him with no protection at all. You are breathing our atmosphere, he said. It will damage your body. I know, but I trust that you will not let me come to harm. I trust that your species values life, even human life. This is madness. Put your protective equipment back on. Not until you agree to give humans a chance to prove we can be responsible. We will evacuate the areas near the dangerous crystals. We will follow safety protocols that your scientists approve. But please don't force us to abandon our homes entirely. Zethkalar's biosuit was now glowing so brightly that it lit up the entire room. Lisa could feel her lungs starting to burn from the alien atmosphere, but she did not move to put her mask back on. Why do you risk your life for these colony worlds, Noes? He asked. Because those worlds are not just places where humans live. They are where humans have built communities, raised families, created art and music and stories. They are part of who we are as a species. And you would die to protect them? I would die to protect the right of my species to have a place in this galaxy where we belong. Lisa felt dizzy from breathing the toxic air, but she remained standing. She could see her reflection in Zethkalar's face mask, and she looked pale and weak. But she also looked determined. The High Commander stood perfectly still for a long moment. Then, slowly, he began to reach toward her with one of his suit's mechanical hands. Put your breathing equipment back on, he said quietly. Will you give us a chance? Put your equipment on first, then we will discuss terms. Lisa smiled and picked up her breathing mask. As she put it back on and took her first breath of safe air, she realized that something had changed in the way Zethkalar was looking at her. For the first time, he seemed to see her not as a dangerous creature, but as a being willing to sacrifice herself for what she believed in. Maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to save 3 worlds and open a door between 2 very different species. Ambassador Lisa Carter sat across from High Commander Zethkalar in a room filled with tension. 2 hours had passed since she had removed her protective equipment, and both leaders were trying to find a solution that would satisfy their peoples. Your proposal is interesting, Zethkalar said through his translator. You would evacuate the areas near the Corathane crystals and follow our safety guidelines, but how can we trust that humans will follow these rules permanently? Because we understand, now that our lives depend on it, Lisa replied. When my people learned that the crystals were making them sick, they immediately stopped mining operations. Humans can learn from mistakes. Other species have made similar promises. They lasted only until the dangers seemed distant and unreal. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. What would convince you that humans are different? Zethkalar was quiet for a long moment. His biosuit's electrical field pulsed slowly as he considered her question. In our culture, trust must be demonstrated through action, not words. But humans and Vexithari can never truly understand each other. We are too different. Maybe our differences could be a strength instead of a weakness, Lisa said. Your species knows about dangers that humans cannot detect. Human adaptability could help find solutions to problems that have no Vexithari answers. You speak of cooperation, but cooperation requires contact. Physical contact. This is impossible for my people. Lisa stood up slowly. High Commander, may I ask you a personal question? You may ask. Have you ever touched another living being without your biosuit? The electrical activity around Zethkalar's suit increased dramatically. For a moment, Lisa thought she had offended him badly. No, he said finally. No Vexithari has done such a thing for over 1,000,000 years. It would mean death. Death from disease? Death from fear. Death from the unknown. Death from contact with things our ancestors learned to avoid. Lisa realized that the Vexithari's fear of touching was deeper than just physical safety. It was built into their culture, their religion, their entire way of thinking about the universe. What if, Lisa said carefully, what if touching another being didn't always mean death? What if sometimes it could mean life, friendship, trust? Impossible. You do not understand the risks. Then help me understand. Show me what you're afraid of. Zethkalar stood up, towering over the human ambassador. You ask me to remove the protection that has kept my species alive for millennia. This is not possible. I'm not asking you to remove your protection. I'm asking you to trust that some risks are worth taking. Lisa walked around the table until she was standing directly in front of the alien leader. His guards immediately raised their weapons, but Zethkalar ordered them to remain calm. High Commander, 3 hours ago I removed my breathing equipment in this room. I trusted you not to let me die. That trust saved the lives of 50,000 humans on 3 colony worlds. That was different. The risk was yours alone. No, it wasn't. If I had died in this room, the humans in Vexithari would have gone to war. Billions of lives were at risk because of my decision to trust you. Lisa slowly extended her right hand toward Zethkalar. I'm asking you to make the same choice I made. I'm asking you to trust me. The room became completely silent. Even the usual humming of the station's machinery seemed to stop. The alien guards watched their leader face an impossible decision. Ambassador Carter, you ask me to violate every law of my people? I ask you to create a new law. A law that says trust is more powerful than fear. Zethkalar looked down at Lisa's extended hand. It was small and pale compared to his crystalline features, but it was steady and unafraid. If I do this thing, and if it brings death, my people will never forgive the humans. If you do this thing, and it brings life, your people will never forget the humans. The High Commander stood motionless for nearly a minute. Lisa could see her reflection in his face mask and noticed that she looked very small and fragile next to the alien leader. But she kept her hand extended, waiting. Finally, Zethkalar began to deactivate his biosuit's protective systems. Warning lights flashed on his chest panel, and alarms sounded throughout the station. His guards moved closer, ready to intervene if something went wrong. High Commander, what are you doing? One of the guards asked in their own language. I am choosing to trust, Zethkalar replied. The protective field around his suit flickered and disappeared. For the first time in millions of years, a Vexithari was unprotected in the presence of an alien species. Slowly, carefully, Zethkalar extended his own hand toward Lisa's. His crystalline fingers were longer than human fingers and glowed with a soft blue light. As the gap between their hands grew smaller, both leaders held their breath. When their skin finally touched, nothing terrible happened. No electrical discharge, no poisonous reaction, no death. Just two beings from different worlds sharing a moment of contact across the vast darkness of space. The handshake lasted only 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds changed everything. News of the handshake spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Within days, every species in known space was talking about the human ambassador and the Vexithari commander, who had dared to touch each other. For humans, the handshake became a symbol of courage and trust. Children learned about Lisa Carter in school and practiced extending their hands in friendship to others who seemed different or scary. For the Vexithari, the moment marked the beginning of a new understanding. If they could safely touch a human, perhaps they could safely interact with other species as well. Their million-year isolation was ending. Other alien species watched these developments with great interest. The Kalari Republic, who had been enemies of the Vexithari for centuries, sent diplomats to meet with both humans and Vexithari. The Thorian Confederacy offered to share their knowledge of safe mining techniques for dangerous crystals. Within 6 months, Lisa Carter found herself traveling across the galaxy as humanity's first interstellar diplomat. Her job was not just to represent human interests, but to help other species communicate with each other. The 3 disputed colony worlds became the first joint human-Vexithari settlements. Human miners worked alongside Vexithari engineers to safely extract resources while protecting the environment. The dangerous crystals were carefully contained and used to power new technologies that benefited both species. Captain Jake Morrison was promoted to admiral and put in charge of the new joint species exploration fleet. Ships from multiple worlds worked together to map unknown regions of space and make contact with new civilizations. Dr. Amy Watson established the first interspecies cultural research center, where beings from different worlds could study each other safely and learn to avoid the misunderstandings that had almost led to war. The handshake that had lasted 3 seconds created ripples that spread throughout the galaxy for generations. It proved that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was not technology or weapons, but the simple act of reaching out to touch another living being with trust and hope. Years later, when diplomatic meetings were held between different species, they would always begin the same way. Representatives would extend their hands, tentacles, claws, or other appendages toward each other and make contact. They called it the Carter Protocol, named after the human ambassador who had taught the galaxy that touching could heal instead of harm. The handshake between a human and an alien had indeed shocked the galaxy, but it had shocked it into a new age of cooperation and understanding that no one had thought possible.